Okay.
Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Is it true? And if he hadn't propped up Hamas, what would be different?
It is a oversimplification of a complex Israeli policy problem. Netanyahu had an argument, and it was a smart argument. The argument was, we can't socially engineer them. We can't get rid of Hamas. What is left to us is to contain them and live our happy lives separate from them. Since Hamas took over Gaza in 2007, that's 17 years now, Israel's GDP per capita doubled. We are now slightly wealthier than New Zealand per capita. Hamas, and like Hamas, pretty much all of our enemies, Hezbollah and the entire Iranian proxy system, essentially demolish their own societies because of the nature of the organizations and the nature of their ideologies. They are tyrannical, theocratic ideologues who destroy themselves. And so the argument essentially was, time is on our side. We have fundamental strengths. We have basically good policies, and we grow from strength to strength. The gap between us and our enemies grows, technological gap, military gap, economic gap, and so contain, deter, and sit tight. And if politics change on the other side, and we won't get another second intifada for another peace process, let that argument be made. But nobody questions that under Hamas that didn't happen. Nobody in Israel. And so that was the argument. And it was a very smart argument, and most Israelis agreed with it, and most Israelis on the left agreed with it. It was an argument to avoid the kind of war that the far right was calling for in Israel, in Gaza, to remove Hamas every time rockets fell. And once, in one particular faction meeting, when Netanyahu was having trouble from far right voters because there were rockets falling and he looked weak because he was making this kind of an argument, he said, "What do you think, I'm an idiot?" I'm paraphrasing. By allowing the Qataris to stabilize Hamas in Gaza, we prevent the Palestinians from unifying their factions, and that helps us everywhere. This is a far-right but clever policy. That is Netanyahu classic, that's classic Netanyahu. It is not the reason for the policy, but he pretended it was when that's what he needed politically. Netanyahu's governments over the last 13, 14 years have been the biggest investors in the Arab community, corrected for inflation in the history of Israel. In education, and there was a negative income tax for Arab working women that he personally helped advance. And then when he campaigned in the last 5 elections over the last 6, 7 years, he ran explicit anti-Arab campaigns. Now, there's a debate in Israel. Is he racist, or is he pretending to be racist for politics? I fall profoundly on the side of he's pretending to be anti-Arab for politics, because in hard policy he wasn't, ever, until he needed to be to scrape out the last 2% on the right, because it was such a narrow race. I think that's morally worse than to be actual Europe. That's your actual opinion. But irrespective of whether it's worse or not worse, Netanyahu has policies and then sells those policies, and those are very different things. No, Netanyahu didn't prop up Hamas, and also, by the way, Netanyahu is not the reason Hamas and Fatah can't unite. Fatah is the conservative Sunni faction of Palestine. Hamas is the radical Salafist Sunni faction of Palestine. One gets all the support of one half of the Arab Sunni world, and one gets all the support of the other half. And, ne'er the twain shall meet. Literally, all of their patronage and all of their money and all of their support on the world stage comes from opposed halves in the great Middle Eastern civil war. So they can't unite because of such vast, vast pressures that have nothing to do with Netanyahu.